Hello, traders. Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com, Sunday, the 27th of April, 2025. In this edition of your weekend video newsletter, we'll discuss the markets turning more bullish last week with junk and high yield corporate leading, with breadth improving. Last week, our indicators reversed, leaving us with 13 bullish, 5 neutral, and only 2 bearish, signaling potential relief to investors. The S&P made substantial progress, moving above the Trump bump from 2 weeks ago Wednesday, closing in the range that we saw back in March, with RSI rising, volume increasing, stochastics and MACD pointing in a bullish direction, with the New York FANG component stocks all participating last week, moving back above the 50 and 200-day moving averages, with the index showing RSI strength of trend improving, MACD and stochastics rising. That together with the NASDAQ Qs rising as well, back above its 9 and 21-day, headed for the 50-day this week, RSI rising, showing strength of trend. MACD and stochastics also bullish, looking for a follow-through this week as tech stocks continue to outperform. In addition, the small caps IWM started to show risk on as we move back above the 9 and 21-day moving averages, as junk bonds decided to lead last week along with high yield corporate debt, giving investors a much needed reprieve, with credit spreads tightening, giving us a bullish signal to start the week. Compounding the bullish action, we saw breadth improving on the shorter term daily advanced decline percent, S&P 500, mid caps, small caps, and NASDAQ in descending order, all moving higher. But most notably, the longer term Zweig breadth thrust indicator gave us a signal on Thursday, as we can see back in 2023 when this signal triggered, with the markets rising from 4,300 to 6,000 over the following 14 months. While this isn't a guarantee, this signal doesn't often fire, and when it does, we need to pay attention. Coming into this week, the 10-year yield continues to fade, while we see improvement in junk bonds and high-yield corporate. The credit spreads have narrowed. As high-yield corporate outperforms and the 10-year rolls over, this is a good signal for equities going forward, along with the bullish trend that we've seen for the last 3 weeks in copper, a forward-looking economic indicator, giving us a green light. Despite the headline news with tariffs, markets seem to have moved past a defensive posture, with institutions apparently buying shares as we look for more confirmation going forward. Technology is also leading again, with semiconductors showing performance last week, NVIDIA with a nice rally along with Broadcom and other stocks from the sector. That performance was echoed throughout the sector, with software, internet, cloud, hardware all rallying last week. We're looking for a follow-through. We pushed above the Trump bump on Wednesday, following through on Thursday, Friday, looking for a push through the 50-day and heading towards the 200-day in short order. More than likely, we'll run into some initial resistance, so we'll be watching for continuation in tech and semiconductors. In addition, consumer discretionary and retail made a nice rebound, so look for your favorite consumer discretionary stocks like Tesla to continue with the performance we saw last week as shorts continue to cover. Last week we talked about the performance in Tesla as it built a base during the month of March and April, with Friday achieving the 50-day, pushing into an area overhead the Kirby with volume increasing above average, MACD and stochastics rallying, along with RSI pointing to an improving trend. Looking for the continuation this week as we press into the Kirby and shorts continue to cover. In addition, we saw noteworthy performance in NVIDIA and Broadcom, both components of the New York FANG index. We look for Broadcom to continue through the 50-day, along with AMD, believe it or not, bringing up the rear. Volume started picking up, MACD and stochastics rising, along with RSI. We just need to get above that straight 50-day moving average. That will break a downtrend, and most likely we'll see more investors piling in over the next several weeks. We got to get above the 50-day, but it does look good. Microsoft, another component of the New York FANG index, followed through, breaking above the 50-day moving average, closing at the Trump bump from 2 weeks ago, Wednesday, right below that 393 zone at 391.65. Looking for a follow-through in Microsoft this week. Apple also showed noteworthy performance, RSI rising, volume increasing, MACD and stochastics pushing higher, showing a bullish trend. We've been above the Trump bump for the last 4 trading days, so we're looking for this follow-through to continue and for strength to persist. Watch out for Amazon. Looks like it could be headed for the 50 and the 200-day this week. RSI is rising. Volume increased markedly last week with MACD and stochastics rising. Google, not to be undone, had a lot of volume last week, looking for a follow-through as it almost closed above the 50-day on Friday. Let's see if we can't get through this level this week. Watch that volume by price ceiling just overhead, which happens to line up with the 200-day moving average, so that should be formidable resistance. Once we get above 172.50 to 175, we should see a move back up to 52-week highs. We also saw a number of IBD 50 stocks showing bullish performance. Most likely will follow through this week. AGX, ARGX, Axon, Boston Scientific, CalMaine, CrowdStrike, Commvault, Cyber, Dave, Duolingo, Grindr, Robinhood with earnings this week on Wednesday. We saw LOAR from the aerospace group also showing strength. Make My Trip, Netflix, of course, on the IBD 50 again this week. Palantir, Rocket Labs, one that we were looking for, a push towards 25. Along with Rubrik, Palantir, TGTX, and Zscaler. Okay, traders, that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com from Cocoa Beach, Florida, at the Kennedy Space Center, just spending the weekend with my son. So I'll send out a watch list later tonight around 12 midnight on the East Coast, around 9 o'clock on the West Coast, so be sure to check your inbox for that. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your weekend, take care, and we'll see you on Monday morning.